The notification pinged at 2:17 a.m. A sharp sound that sliced through the silence of my darkened room. My heart lurched as I grabbed my phone, the glow illuminating my face in the quiet Brooklyn apartment. It was him, Blue Sky 92, the guy I'd been messaging for weeks, whose words felt like a lifeline in the chaos of my life. I'd never seen his face. No profile picture, just a silhouette against a sunset and a bio that read, "Looking for someone who gets it. Coffee, music, and late-night talks about the universe." It was vague, sure, but his messages were anything but. They were witty, thoughtful, sometimes raw, like he was peeling back layers of himself just for me. I'd lie awake rereading them, my chest tight with something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Ethan Carter, a 25-year-old graphic designer with a knack for overthinking, was falling for a stranger on a dating app. The apartment was still, save for the faint hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of the radiator. My roommate, Lucas Hayes, was probably asleep in the next room. We'd been sharing this cramped two-bedroom for 6 months, ever since I answered his Craigslist ad. Lucas was 26, a freelance writer with a quiet intensity that made me nervous in a way I couldn't explain. Blonde hair that always fell into his eyes, glasses he adjusted absent-mindedly, and a laugh that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. I'd catch myself staring sometimes, then look away, embarrassed by the warmth creeping up my neck. The message from Blue Sky 92 was short: "Can't sleep. Thinking about you. What's keeping you up?" My fingers hovered over the keyboard, a smile tugging at my lips. I typed back, "Same. Just wondering what you're like in person. Got a wild guess about me." I hit send, my pulse racing. This was our game: teasing, guessing, building a connection without names or faces. It felt safe, like a dream I didn't have to wake up from. Morning came too fast. I dragged myself out of bed, the smell of coffee pulling me to the kitchen. Lucas was there, leaning against the counter, his hoodie sleeves rolled up. "Rough night?" he asked, pushing his glasses up his nose. His voice was soft, but it carried that familiar edge of curiosity. "Yeah," I said, avoiding his eyes. Couldn't sleep. I grabbed a mug, my phone burning a hole in my pocket. Lucas didn't know about Blue Sky 92. He didn't know I was gay, either. I hadn't told anyone since moving to New York. Not after the way things ended back in Ohio. My family's silence still stung, a wound I kept hidden under layers of sarcasm and late-night work. We ate breakfast in comfortable silence, the kind we perfected over months of living together. Lucas scribbled in a notebook, probably drafting another article, while I sketched logo ideas on my tablet. But my mind was elsewhere, replaying Blue Sky 92's last message. "I bet you're the kind of guy who notices the little things. Like the way someone's hands move when they're nervous." It was eerie how well he seemed to know me. That afternoon, I was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through our chat history, when Lucas called from his room. "Ethan, you got a sec?" His voice sounded off, tense. I set my phone down and walked over, leaning against his doorframe. His room was a mess of books and vinyl records, a guitar propped against the wall. He was sitting on his bed, laptop open, his face pale. "Everything okay?" I asked, my stomach twisting. Lucas wasn't the type to get rattled. He hesitated, then turned the laptop toward me. I think I messed up." The screen showed a dating app, the same one I used. My breath caught as I recognized the interface, the sunset silhouette. Blue Sky 92's profile stared back at me. "What the hell?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Lucas looked up, his eyes wide with something like fear. "I didn't mean to," he said quickly. I didn't know it was you." My mind reeled. Blue Sky 92 was Lucas. The guy I'd been pouring my heart out to. The guy I'd imagined meeting in some perfect, impossible moment. Was my roommate. The realization hit like a tidal wave, drowning me in shock and something else, something dangerously close to relief. Ethan, say something. Lucas pleaded, his voice breaking. I opened my mouth, but no words came. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another notification from the app. I didn't need to check it to know it was him. The air in Lucas's room felt thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. I stood frozen in the doorway, my phone still buzzing in my pocket. Each vibration a reminder of the truth I wasn't ready to face. Look has me roommate. My friend. The guy I'd been too scared to admit I liked was Blue Sky 92. I can explain, Lucas said, his voice low, almost desperate. He stood up, closing his laptop with a soft click. His hands were shaking, and I couldn't stop staring at them, remembering Blue Sky 92's message about noticing nervous gestures. God, how had I missed this? Explain. I managed, my throat tight. You've been messaging me for weeks. Lucas. Weeks. My voice cracked on his name, and I hated how vulnerable it made me sound. I took a step back, needing space, needing to think. He ran a hand through his hair, pushing it out of his eyes. I didn't know it was you at first. Ethan. I swear. The app, it's anonymous. I just like talking to you. Too. Whoever I thought you were. I laughed, sharp and bitter. So what? You were just gonna keep it a secret forever. Let me keep spilling my guts to some faceless guy who's literally sleeping 10 feet away. My chest ached. A mix of betrayal and something softer. Something I didn't want to name. Lucas winced, like I'd slapped him. I was scared. Okay. I didn't know how you'd react. I didn't even know if you. He trailed off, his gaze dropping to the floor. The unspoken words hung between us. I didn't know if you were gay. I turned away, my hands clenched into fists. My mind was a whirlwind, every late-night message, every stupid emoji, every time I'd felt my heart race at his words. It was all Lucas. The guy who left dishes in the sink, who played acoustic covers of Radiohead songs at 3 a.m., who made me coffee when I was pulling all-nighters. The guy I'd been crushing on since the day I moved in. I need air, I muttered, heading for the door. Lucas called after me, but I didn't stop. I grabbed my jacket and bolted out of the apartment, the Brooklyn streets blurring as I walked. It was late afternoon, the city alive with noise-honking cabs, chattering pedestrians, the distant wail of a siren. But all I could hear was my own heartbeat, pounding in my ears. I ended up at Prospect Park, sitting on a bench under a leafless oak tree. My phone was heavy in my hand, the screen still lit with Blue Sky 92's Lucas' last message. I'm sorry. Can we talk? I wanted to throw the damn thing into the lake. Instead, I opened our chat history, scrolling through weeks of conversations. The time he'd told me about his fear of never being enough for anyone. The night I'd confessed I felt like I was running from my past. It was all real, wasn't it? Even if he hadn't known it was me. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I thought about Ohio, about the family I'd left behind after coming out. The silence from my parents had been louder than any argument. Moving to New York was supposed to be a fresh start, but I carried that weight with me, building walls around my heart. Lucas had slipped through those walls, first as Blue Sky 92, then as himself. I don't know how long I sat there, but my phone buzzed again. Another message from Lucas. I'm still here. Whenever you're ready. Simple. No pressure. Just like him. My anger softened, replaced by a gnawing ache. I'd been falling for him twice, once online, once in person, and now the two versions were colliding. When I got back to the apartment, It was dark. Lucas was on the couch, a blanket draped over his shoulders. His laptop closed. He looked up as I walked in, his eyes searching mine. "You okay?" he asked softly. "No," I said honestly, dropping onto the armchair across from him. "But I'm here." He nodded, like he understood. "I didn't mean to lie to you, Ethan. When I figured out it was you, I panicked. I didn't want to ruin what we had." "What do we have?" "Lucas." The question slipped out before I could stop it, raw and unguarded. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his gaze steady. "Something real?" "At least, I think so." My breath hitched. I wanted to believe him, but fear clawed at me, fear of being seen, of being hurt again. "I need time," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "Take all the time you need," he replied, and the sincerity in his voice broke something in me. I stood, mumbling a good night, and retreated to my room. But as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had already changed. The next few days were a tightrope walk. Lucas and I moved around each other like planets in uneasy orbits, careful not to collide. Breakfasts were quiet, the clink of spoons against cereal bowls louder than our words. I'd catch him glancing at me, his eyes full of questions, but I couldn't meet them. Not yet. Work was my escape. I buried myself in design projects, tweaking fonts and color palettes until my eyes burned. But even at the studio, my mind wandered back to Lucas, to the way he'd laugh at my terrible puns, the way his fingers strummed his guitar absent-mindedly, to the messages from Blue Sky 92 that still lived in my phone, a digital diary of feelings I hadn't dared voice aloud. On Thursday, I came home to find Lucas in the living room, surrounded by takeout containers. He looked up, sheepish. "Thought we could use some Thai food. Peace offering." He gestured to the spread pad Thai, green curry, mango sticky rice. My favorite. I hesitated, then sat down. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to," he said, passing me a plate. "I hate this tension. I miss us." "Us?" I raised an eyebrow, trying to keep my tone light, but my heart was racing. "You know what I mean." He looked down, poking at his food. The way things were, before I screwed it up. I wanted to tell him he hadn't screwed anything up, that I was the one tying myself in knots. But instead, I took a bite of pad Thai, letting the flavors ground me. "This is good," I said, and he smiled, small but genuine. We ate, talking about safe things work, the weather, the neighbor's cat that kept sneaking into our apartment. But the air was charged, every word a step toward something bigger. When we finished, Lucas leaned back, his glasses catching the light. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded, bracing myself. "When did you know?" he asked. "That you were, you know." I swallowed hard. I hadn't talked about this in years. Not since Ohio. But Lucas's eyes were steady. Not judging. Just waiting. "High school," I said finally. "I had a crush on my best friend." Told him. And he stopped talking to me. Then I told my parents. And I trailed off, the memory of their silence cutting deeper than I expected. Lucas's face softened. "I'm sorry." I shrugged, like it didn't matter. But it did. "What about you?" He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "College. I dated a guy for a while, but it didn't work out. I've been careful since then. Didn't want to mess up a good thing. Like with you." My chest tightened. "You thought I'd freak out." "I didn't know," he admitted. "You never said anything, and I didn't want to assume. But then the app, it was like I could be myself without risking anything." I understood that more than I wanted to admit. Hiding behind a screen was easier than facing the truth. I like talking to you, I said quietly, even before I knew it was you. His eyes lit up, just for a moment, before he looked away. Me too. We cleaned up in silence, but it wasn't the heavy kind from before. It felt possible, like we were building something new, brick by brick. That night, I lay awake, thinking about his words, about the way his voice softened when he said my name. I wanted to be brave, to tell him how I felt, but fear still held me back. The next morning, I found a post-it note on the fridge, "Coffee's on. Let's talk soon." I smiled, tracing the messy handwriting with my finger. Maybe I could do this. Maybe we could. Saturday morning broke with a rare quiet. The city outside our window unusually still. I woke to the smell of pancakes, a sound of clattering pans pulling me to the kitchen. Lucas was at the stove, flipping a pancake with surprising skill. He glanced over, a shy smile tugging at his lips. Figured we could use something sweet. I slid onto a stool, watching him work. "You're full of surprises. Hayes. Gotta keep you on your toes. Carter." He slid a plate toward me, stacked with golden pancakes drizzled with maple syrup. It was domestic, almost too perfect, and it made my chest ache in a way I couldn't ignore. We ate, the conversation light but laced with something unspoken. I wanted to ask about the note, about what "let's talk" meant, but every time I opened my mouth, the word stuck. Instead, I watched him, memorizing the way his glasses slipped down his nose, the way he laughed when I teased him about his cooking. After breakfast, Lucas suggested a walk. "Clear our heads," he said, and I agreed, needing the fresh air to steady myself. We wandered through Brooklyn, past brownstones and bustling cafes, the autumn air crisp against my skin. Lucas's hands were stuffed in his pockets, his scarf loose around his neck. He looked nervous, and it made me wonder what he was holding back. We ended up at a small park, sitting on a bench overlooking a pond. Ducks glided across the water, and for a moment, it felt like we were the only two people in the world. Lucas broke the silence first. "I've been thinking about what you said, about feeling like you're running from your past." I tensed, not expecting him to bring it up. "Yeah." He turned to me, his eyes serious. "I get it. I've been running too. From who I am. From what I want. But talking to you on the app," he writes, "the first time I felt like I could stop." My heart pounded. "What do you want, Lucas?" He looked away, his jaw tight. "You," he said, so softly I almost missed it. "But I don't want to push you. I know you've been through a lot." I stared at him, my mind racing. He was offering me everything I'd been too scared to hope for, and it terrified me. "I don't know if I'm ready," I admitted, my voice raw. "But I want to be." He nodded, his expression a mix of hope and patience. "That's enough for now." We walked back home, our shoulders brushing occasionally, each touch sending a spark through me. That night, Lucas played his guitar, the notes soft and tentative, like he was playing just for me. I sat on the couch, sketching him in my notebook, capturing the curve of his jaw, the way his fingers moved over the strings. It felt like a beginning, fragile but real. The next week was a blur of small moments that felt huge. Lucas and I fell into a new rhythm: coffee in the morning, shared glances over dinner, late-night talks that stretched past midnight. We didn't label anything, didn't push, but the air between us crackled with possibility. One evening, Lucas invited me to a poetry reading at a local bookstore. "You'll like it," he said, his eyes bright with excitement. I wasn't big on poetry, but I'd have followed him anywhere. The bookstore was packed, the air thick with the smell of old books and coffee. Lucas's friends were there, a mix of writers and artists, all warm and welcoming. I felt out of place, but Lucas stayed close, his hand brushing mine as he introduced me. The reading was intense, raw words about love and loss that hit too close to home. One poet, a woman with a sharp voice, read a piece about hiding who you are, and I felt Lucas's eyes on me. When it was over, we stepped outside, the night air cool against my flushed skin. That was a lot, I said, shoving my hands in my pockets. Yeah, Lucas agreed, his voice soft. It made me think about you. About us. I stopped walking, turning to face him. What about us? He stepped closer, his breath visible in the cold. I want to be honest with you, Ethan. No more hiding. I like you. A lot. And I think you like me too. My heart stopped, then started again. Faster. I do, I said, the words spilling out before I could overthink them. But I'm scared. Lucas, I've lost people before. He reached for my hand, his fingers warm against mine. I'm not going anywhere. We stood there, the city humming around us. And for the first time, I let myself believe him. We walked home hand in hand, the silence between us comfortable, full of promise. That night, I fell asleep to the sound of Lucas's guitar, a melody that felt like it was written just for me. The weeks that followed were like stepping into a new world. Lucas and I were careful, testing the waters of whatever this was. We went on dates real once, not just walks or takeout at home. A dive bar with live music, a museum where we argued over abstract art, a late-night diner where we shared fries and talked about everything and nothing. But the past has a way of creeping in. One night, I got a call from my sister, the first in years. Her voice was hesitant, asking how I was, if I was happy. I wanted to tell her about Lucas, about the way he made me feel alive. But I couldn't. Not yet. When I hung up, Lucas was there, his hand on my shoulder. Family stuff? He asked gently. I nodded, my throat tight. They don't get it. They never have. He pulled me into a hug, his arms steady and warm. You don't have to go through it alone anymore. I buried my face in his shoulder, letting the weight of years fall away. With Lucas, I felt seen, not just as the guy I presented to the world, but as the mess of fears and hopes I kept hidden. We stayed like that for a long time, the world outside fading to nothing. But not everything was easy. At work, I overheard a coworker make a snide comment about guys like me, and it brought back every doubt I'd ever had. I came home quiet, retreating to my room. Lucas noticed. Of course. He always did. Talk to me, he said, sitting on the edge of my bed. I told him about the comment, about the fear that I'd never fully fit in anywhere. He listened, his face serious, then took my hand. You're enough, Ethan. More than enough. His words were a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge. That night, we kissed for the first time, tentative and sweet, and it felt like coming home. Winter settled over New York, blanketing the city in snow. Lucas and I grew closer, our lives intertwining in ways I hadn't dared imagine. We cooked dinner together, laughed over bad movies, shared secrets in the dark. But the closer we got, the more I worried about what came next. One night, Lucas got an offer to write for a magazine in San Francisco. It was a dream job, the kind he'd been chasing for years. He told me over dinner, his voice excited but laced with hesitation. It's a big move, he said, watching me carefully. I haven't said yes yet. My stomach dropped. You should take it, I said, forcing a smile. It's what you've always wanted. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. What I want is you. Ethan. The job's great, but I'm not going anywhere unless we figure this out together. I wanted to cry, to tell him how much that meant, but all I could do was squeeze his hand. We spent the night talking, weighing options, dreaming about a future that included both of us. It wasn't easy, nothing worth having is, but it felt right. The next day, I called my sister back. I told her about Lucas, about how he made me feel like I could be myself. She listened, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. I'm happy for you, she said, and I believed her. Spring came, and with it, a decision. Lucas took the job, but we made a plan. I'd freelance, move with him to San Francisco, start over together. It was terrifying, exhilarating, everything I'd never thought I could have. The night before we left, we sat on the roof of our Brooklyn apartment, the city sprawling below us. Lucas's arm was around me, his warmth a steady anchor. You ever think about how we got here? He asked, his voice soft. I laughed, leaning into him. A dating app and a lot of dumb luck. He grinned, kissing my forehead. Best dumb luck of my life. We watched the skyline, the lights twinkling like stars. I thought about the boy from Ohio, scared and alone, and the man I was now, loved and seen. Lucas had changed everything, not just by being Blue Sky 92, but by being himself, flawed, kind, and mine. As we packed up our apartment, I found the notebook from the first day, the one with his messy handwriting. I kept it, a reminder of how far we'd come. We were building something new, not just a relationship, but a life. And for the first time, I wasn't running from anything. I was running toward it.